Isn't it? Well, I didn't realise we were starting. Okay, so this has been quite interesting for me because obviously I run advertising for Paramount in the UK, and this is a panel that's about essentially how do you actually get the content and the ads to people, which I have not particularly paid that much attention to before. So actually moderating this panel and getting introduced to the people on it has been a really interesting experience for me. So should we start? Gabriel, do you want to introduce yourself and we'll go this way?
Yep, I did it this morning, but Gabriel Cosgrave worked for Xperi, run global sales and revenue. So Xperi is made up of TiVo, DTS, HD radio, IMAX, a few things. But for this topic, it's mostly TiVo. Yep.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom, co-founders and creative director of FX Digital, and we design and build connective apps, and we work with sports and media entertainment brands.
Okay, hello, my name is Vitalis. I'm with Sharp. Actually, I've been 2 decades with Sharp company. I hope you heard of us. We're actually making TVs, and we're bringing those TVs home so you can watch them.
Nice and simple. So I think the big theme of this panel is actually about collaboration. So should we start off with what does that mean for each of you when we're talking about this in particular, which is, CTV is now the primary method for video consumption in the home. Almost all TVs that are being sold are smart enabled and they have lots of inbuilt apps. But in order for that to happen, what's the collaboration that needs to go? Who wants to start? Do you want to start first? Because you're the you're the beginning, aren't you? You're the TV set, right?
Yes. We're starting this journey. So for us, collaboration means actually collaboration at every single stage. When we're making the device, it starts with the thinking of what we want to do and with whom. So our collaboration starts with the suppliers, those guys who are making the parts for us to make the final product. Then it goes on with the collaboration with the obviously operating systems like TiVo. Thank you, Gabriel. And we collaborate with them. Actually, we're making everything that is possible for the operating system to operate on the device. So for us, collaboration is actually important on every single stage. Of course, we are interested in collaboration on the latter stage, like what's happening once the TV is actually at people's home and what's happening then. And actually, this has become interesting only a while ago, because before we were just putting that TV at home and that was it. Right now, there is many fascinating things happening after that, and we also are proud to collaborate with the operating systems like TiVo, for that matter, in what's happening after actually people switched it on and mounted this on the wall or put it on a stand. So that's what collaboration is for us.
And then Gabriel, do you want to go next? Because that's the kind of almost
Yeah, no,
order
it's
of
fair,
things, isn't it?
And the TV OEM partners, I think, Vitalis, the way you're saying it is quite right, has evolved, right, from going from manufacturer just to retailer, and then you're kind of done. It's evolved into how it's working in a home, and the OS collaboration and partnerships are very important there, because all the CSPs and content partners, fast channels, everything that's being displayed on home screens and played on videos, and then all the way into the advertising world, as well as retailer relationships, but all the way back into the hardware. So we kind of sit in the middle a bit, but certainly that collaborative journey, you can't make a TV with a certain OS without joining that journey early, but also knowing what the end game is. So that's kind of where we sit across it. But Sharp's been one of those good partners for the last couple of years now.
And then Tom, you obviously are essential because a lot of these things are different. So for the content owner, your app is essential to kind of connecting that content to these two parts of the chain, right?
Without you guys, we wouldn't have a job, basically, because we've got no apps to build for.
Commission? Oh.
You're welcome.
Well, yeah, cheers. But for us, every year there's a new TV. And when a client comes to us, they want to be on all the major platforms out there. So we have to support those and then also be like, okay, there's a 26 model coming out, there's 27 model coming out. So we have to have good partnerships with the manufacturers so we get access to those TVs so we can get the apps on there, test them early, make sure there's no bugs, and we go onto the model cleanly. And also when it comes to submitting the apps as well through the portals, whether that's, Roku or Samsung, you end up building relationships with, the testers who are on the other end of it in the testing labs, going back and forth, making sure that we're covering all the certification criteria, making sure that we're leveraging all of the capabilities of the device as well. And and we're kind of a translator between the brand and the QA teams on the manufacturing side to make sure that they're leveraging the features. We're getting that thing launched when it needs to be launched as well.
And what, naively to me, I think, TV is a TV and an operating system, but there's constant change, right? So what has been the biggest change over the last sort of 12 to 18 months? And is that sort of ongoing, is it accelerating, or is actually it starting to slow down? So what's...
I would say it's changing quite a lot.
Yeah.
So recently Amazon launched the Vega OS. So it's a new operating system. It's Linux based. They want to have more ownership over the screen as opposed to using Android. So then obviously all of our clients are like, right, can we get on this device? It's like, yes, we can. But it's a new code base. It's a new build. So obviously we have to be prepared for new devices, let alone, new years of models of devices. And then I think also you've got things like the Google Gemini TV, which is pushing more advanced interaction with their always-on technology and presence detection. And it's a voice-enabled device. It's kind of changing the way of potentially how we might interact with TV as a more voice-dominant based device. So I think that's just the start of it, but there will be even more change coming.
And for you, tell us, what's changing for you as from a set? I mean, we were just having a conversation about CES, weren't we? So I mean, it's AI and...
Yes, it's very fascinating what's happening on the app side, but basically what's fascinating is also what's happening on the device side. So there's been massive improvements recently in the picture quality, and we always looking into that as a something that is very important for the user to engage in whatever the content they want to watch. They want to watch it in a great quality. So the AI is also obviously helping in that, advancing the picture quality in a way that was not possible before, apart from the hardware solutions that are also common, RGB, LED, mini LEDs, all those things that you may be or may not be aware of. But these are all things that are happening right now at the beginning of this whole process. Then the sound is also something that we are looking at with a very great interest. Obviously, we were talking about how sometimes incomprehensible the sound is, especially when you're watching somebody's talking in the movies. And this is also where AI comes with help in order for us to be able to understand what these people are talking about, basically. And then obviously all the other things like the voice control, voice recognition, all these things will come with some advancements in the hardware. They would not be possible if we did not think about this at the very beginning, what kind of devices we have to put in a set in order to make it work. So yeah, it's very interesting what's happening right now.
And Sharp is a very good DTS customer for sound, just to say.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think a lot has changed if I look at it. I mean, from the OS involvement, but if you think about a home screen, you've gone from kind of more EPG styles to apps to content centric, and TiVo's very content first, where, we talked about Freely this morning or things like that. It's the consumer engagement becomes more easy when it's content centric and you're not opening apps and closing apps and all that stuff. So all the homepage is advanced, but then you get into homepage video ads that are rotating at the top in the screen, and the real estate of the homepage becomes very important. And that's where a lot of the business models back into OEM partners and back into content partners is where the monetization picture plays. But that all starts back further down the chain with the OEMs and how we're going to do this and what the OS looks like and where you're going to partner. But I don't know how many times Klaus and I were talking, it's probably 4 years I'm at this thing. Content discovery just keeps coming up every year as something that needs to be solved. I think we've gone a long way to solve a lot of that issue, but the array of content offerings and apps and other things that are available on any home screen now and most of the big players is so vast that you have to be able to decipher that quickly. So recommendations, personalization, all that other stuff is a constant improvement activity.
Just coming from, because I'm a planner at heart, so like, how are you getting consumer feedback that then helps you to actually identify what direction you need to be going in? Like where does that feedback chain come from? How do consumers feed into all of these developments? This is I've just completely thrown them a left side question here.
Well,
But
no, it's you get multitude of reviews on different things, but there's different forms for it. But ACR data and different types of data will tell you a lot about engagement and viewership, as you know, Katie, different things like that. And you get different types of audiences that react to the way they're engaging. And Tom could probably speak to this, whether it's opening, closing apps or getting straight into activities. But if you don't, my feeling is if you don't have a minimum baseline of the content that different age groups want to watch, and that's where I think Freely does a great job for the UK in particular, then you're going to get reactions to that, right? But you're able to measure parts of it through different types of data sources that we have, and I'm sure this.
Yeah, I mean, we do
you get reviews, right? I mean,
yeah, it's the standard video player metrics, watch time. Obviously, we want to know average subscribers as well, and churn and those kind of standard metrics, because there's also the sign up process that you have to account for TV. A lot of the apps we build do in-app purchasing, so it's an important metric to make sure that path is as intuitive and easy to understand as possible. Everything from the copy to the different subscription tiers. So we do track sign-ups via the TV as well. But you're right, it really is our job is to make sure that the individual can find something they want to watch as quickly as they can. And a lot of the time it's from the app development side, it's the user experience, but also the performance. We have to really make sure that these apps perform incredibly well, even if they are on an old device. There's a lot of people don't change their TV that often, every sort of 7 to 8 years or whatever. And you might even have like a very old set-top box, but the expectation is to make it as slick and intuitive as a Netflix on a modern TV, but we have half the resources to do that. So we have to really optimize for speed and make sure that we're monitoring the performance of the app to make that content selection and watching efficient.
Yes, and for us, we have two metrics. First one is actually the people who are going to the shops and vote with their legs, basically, and with their wallets. So this is when they buy the TV, actually. That's the first metric.
And you said that in the UK, in November, Sharp were the number 2, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, we were actually number 2 in November and number 3 in Q3. So so for us, it's a big thing. We are not the biggest name of the TV makers, as you know, but we're really proud, and we're 100 years old. So yes, we're still alive and kicking.
But you were saying there was kind of like a hierarchy almost of what people think about when they're coming in and having a look.
Oh, yes. There is a certain hierarchy. And so in our review, people first, when they go and buy the TV, first they look at the screen size, they look at their budget, they want to know how much actually they can spend and for what. Then they go to the shop and they actually try to think what they can get it, and they look at the brand. If the brand rings the bell somehow, if it resonates with them, and yes, they're going to go for it. And only then, I think, sorry, Gabriel, but only then they think about the OS. That's our opinion, and I think it's gonna be like this for quite a while. They don't really care whether there's a TiVo, Roku, Google, or whatever else on the TV. That's at least our opinion. Only later on they think, okay, what I'm gonna have on that TV? Do I need really? Yes, I need really. So I go for that. I don't need really. I buy something else. Something that I can watch, I can enjoy, and I can put at home, and it looks nice. So aesthetics and all these kind of things are also important for us, because we want them to enjoy the device they bought, and they get their value for money. So yeah, that's the metrics we measure. Although we're looking very consciously and with much bigger interest right now in the activations, basically, because there is a certain discrepancy as well between the number of goods sold and the number of activated device. That's obviously not 100%. So it's interesting how this actually this transformation ratio from bought devices to active devices is also interesting for us. We're looking into that as well.
And so, we've been talking about all the positive side of things, why collaboration is really important, what collaboration delivers. But what are some of the barriers that you're facing at the moment? Kind of there's a lot of proliferation in some ways. So you're saying new operating systems, but there's also convergence in a lot of other ways around content supply. But like, what are your particular barriers that you're having to try and overcome to still get growth?
Barriers to growth.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you mean from a volume or footprint or whatever, if you take it from that angle and then maybe come at it from the monetization. So, I think, well, certainly from a TiVo perspective, you're playing in the big boys field, right? Our competitors are some tech giants, to say the least, with some deep pockets, let's say. So retailers in particular have always kind of managed margins very tightly, and there's a lot of incentives and all that other stuff that go on. So the business models, you need to be quite creative to be able to kind of keep that growth going. You also got to make sure that your partners in the brand space feel comfortable that you're the right answer for them from a consumer perspective, but also that their sell-through will go, right? And that's luckily what's happening, and we've made, like Vitalis said, we were also in the top 4 in the UK, as you saw from an OS perspective. So you'll see that, but I think what's next in that challenge is where it goes with the availability of data sharing, which we do with retailers, with partners, and what happens with that as we step into the world of retail media, which we can talk about in a few minutes. But so I think it's not one thing. It's a kind of a constant journey that flip-flops, as Vitalis will tell you, between ranging selling points in the year, whether it's April or Black Friday or Christmas or whatever, that every promotional campaign is slightly different. It's not like you're in for a year and you're set for the next couple of years. It's not the way it works. So you kind of have to stay on top of that all the time, right? Together.
For you, are you finding, because you were saying, depending on the market, you obviously have to choose the right partners. Is that work? Is that working, or are there issues with that?
Yes, well, we need to have right partners in the right regions, and that's very important for us. We are in London. It's definitely very UK-centric conference, but actually we are selling all across Europe. So for us, choosing the right partners in order to sell in every single country where we are selling, and this is more than 30 of them, is very important. So yes, we have constant discussions with Gabriel on enabling other countries and getting all them apps on the TV is very important for us. So we need to choose something that resonates with the customers everywhere, be it the UK, but it also needs to be Slovenia or whichever other country you can think of. Everywhere, the customers there, the end users, want their apps on the television. They want to see their local heroes. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it just not totally doesn't make sense from business planning or ROI perspective, but they need them. So this is why we need to look at the partners in a way that would enable us to actually sell our TVs all across Europe. And it's not an easy market.
Tom?
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts on this. I think a lot of the time we see customers wanting to, they have grand visions for some of the features and where they want to take the product, but there's commercial reasons at play where they might want to swap back-end providers, whether that's recommendation engine, the CMS, the video player, and that's quite a complex integration with the front end. And so you end up spending significant amount of time doing that work, but it's important work because obviously that's the core foundation of the product. But you have to do that for all the platforms as well. Like we mentioned, Roku, Android, and Amazon Fire, and all the set-top boxes, TiVo. Yeah. So it's a huge undertaking to do that work, and I think sometimes you lose sight of. Sometimes the brands can lose sight of some of the innovation areas they could push because they have to do so much of that foundational work. I've got a few challenges if you want me to throw out a few more. I could talk from the sports side. I think they have a tricky one where if you've got a niche sports product, you've got a loyal audience.
Yeah.
But when there's an off season, there's nothing to watch.
Yeah.
That loyalty goes. So they're forced to try and come up with creative ways to entice people to stay on the platform, reduced subscription fees, or setting up creating more fast content to just keep people engaged and keep them on the platform, because it's so much harder to re-engage with them and bring them back. Just a couple of points in mind.
And so, and you were talking about in-app purchase. I mean, I know, Gabriel, you wanted to have a chat about sort of monetization, right? Because there are lots of different ways that the OS and apps enable monetization, and the way that sort of advertising in itself is innovating from a format perspective, the amount of data. So do you want to talk about, you mentioned retail media?
Yeah, I think it's less, or it's not really about challenge, it's more the opportunity
Yeah.
that's there. And, if we're talking about CTV gurus and how you're building and blueprint, I think building it from the end goal backwards is what I said earlier, is kind of really important, particularly as, the industry is seeing more transition of linear spend from ad to streaming and CTV. And in order to do that, you get, independent platforms like ourselves are open to collaboration, and we've done some recent announcements on that, on standardizing ad formats, so that advertisers and agencies can come to us and sell across multiple footprints of not just TiVo, because the partnerships are there to do that. If I think about other opportunities in retail media, and some of the retailers are better at this than others, particularly in US, but also actually in mainland Europe. If I look at MediaMarkt or Turn, those that know that in mainland, you would know them well. Retail media is a huge part of their business, right? And they're really very mature at that, but they're able to do, and it's the same here in the UK. We just need to almost speed up the thought process beyond the short-term quick win incentives to the longer-term reoccurring revenue of retail media. If you take for one of our customers, is Argos, for example, on the Bush TVs, obviously Sharp as well as in retail there in UK, but having an app on there that's able to join and marry all the data throughout that ecosystem, as well as do their own ads on the home screen and within the CTV placements and banner ads, all of that is the technology's there, right? It's already doable. It's just trying to get that marriage, if you like, up and running here in the UK. I think there's lessons to be learned and do that, and then you'll see that transition even more. So it becomes just easier to spend on those platforms on your own end.
But you're talking about, that's the operating system kind of owning and facilitating that delivery of for retail customers in particular, right? That's them owning it for their own products. So are those TVs that they are selling, right?
Yeah, their own products, like a Bush branded TV
Yeah,
within
yeah.
Argos, or if they want to be that way, they can say any TV that's sold in my stores needs to have this, right? They can do that, and that's kind of what's happening in Germany. So, there's room for growth there, and that all of that is just creating acceleration into more direct revenue streams for the retailers, and obviously for the advertising agencies. It just becomes simpler.
Do you think there's enough scale outside the US though for that?
It's getting there. I don't think that the US obviously is way more mature on that, probably 2 or 3 years ahead. And to be honest, I'm not a fan of going to that model completely, because I don't think any consumer should be that bombarded with ads. I tried to watch the Super Bowl once and I gave up. But I do think there is a home for it, that we can step up a couple of levels and just make that play in advertising and monetization more seamless between the different parties, and therefore everybody kind of wins, right? But the consumer experience still stays very high and central.
So what does the next 3 to 5 years of CTV growth look like? That's a big question, isn't it? Do you want to go first, Vitalis?
Yes, 3 to 5 years. Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, that's a very good question. We are wondering what's gonna happen. Definitely, there is certain buzzwords in the industry, like consolidation. Yes, for that matter. Well, or fragmentation, for example. But my question is, who cares about fragmentation if I'm just buying a TV? I mean, what do I care if I buy this one or that one? People do not care about this so much, I believe, right now. Although also, in my opinion, there will be some job to be done in the MA department, so on many companies. How this is going to end up, we don't know. There's been talking about consolidation for quite a while, and nothing's happening. We see more operating system popping up all the time with different proposals, with different offers. But yes, they are there, and so this is, in my opinion, this is going to continue for quite a while still. And for us, the biggest challenge will be still this fragmentation of the European market. and the ability for the operating systems to cover all the regions. That's really what we are looking for, and we're really working hard with TiVo also we collaborate strongly on that to be able to extend that proposal across the continent. The big question mark is whether the operating system will be concentrating on only 5 monetizing countries, or they really want to step out of this comfort zone and supply their products also somewhere else where the opportunities may arise, may not. We don't know that. But the biggest challenge right now in the next 3 to 5 years will be, I think, the memory cost increases. I don't know if you're following that news, how memory prices are going up, and this is going to be a big topic, I believe, for quite a while. We have experienced a huge price erosion in the last year. The UK TV prices, I don't know if you're aware, they dropped up for about 15%. That's a huge drop in just 1 year. And there was 10% in the continent. So that's a big problem for the manufacturers. And right now, with the memory cost increases, to fight for these customers and to fight for the with that will be extremely difficult. So yeah, that's something.
So this is about margin for you, right?
It's
Yeah.
not only that, but it's also, it must be reflected in the market somehow. I mean, people will need to pay more
Yeah.
for the TVs, whether they will be willing
If they
to do
want
that.
them to do everything that they want them to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when it is the time when they accept that the devices will be more expensive, this is the big question for us.
Right. Tom?
3 to 5 years, future trends. I think, well, we call them smart TVs. I think they're going to be super smart TVs. Like I said, with the likes of AI being built into these, I think they're going to be more than just a streaming experience. It's going to be your main device in the home that you use for a lot of things, for search queries, for educational videos. If you're just, maybe even thinking about booking a holiday, you might just start talking to your TV with your partner or your family around the sofa, because you're going to be able to do those search queries through the device. So the TV is going to become a more powerful device and have far more use cases, I think, for you. And also, we're seeing it now already. We're talking about vertical video and the rise of that, and the crossover we're getting with content creators, and I think those lines are going to blur even more.
Micro dramas. We're commissioning micro dramas so they're going to be vertical, but we'll show them on the main channels as well, right?
Amazing.
So they're coming everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of crossover of content we'll see more and more of, and I think someone else mentioned it. Instagram launched their Amazon Fire Reels application, so that kind of social. The TV is not just for premium content anymore. It's kind of democratized. It's for any content, really.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you're describing, because a similar thought process was like this. The smart TV gets smarter and almost becomes like a mobile phone today. We forget about calls and videos. That's probably easy to do already. But then the car becomes more like the TV is today, and all it is circles around the same convenience and availability of content playback, no matter where you are, and it becomes ubiquitous and it becomes very simple and easy. I think that's has to be where the 3 or 4 years goes in from a platform or an OS perspective and content perspective. But on the other side of it is what happens with the marriage of data to consumers, and people get a little bit more relaxed. Like on your phone, how many times do you accept terms and conditions and data sharing and things on your phone, you don't even look at it, right? So that just becomes a new norm, and with that opens all sorts of business models, which then feed back, as I mentioned, from monetization back into the margin issue that the TV manufacturers, the retailers, and different brands have had, and that whole ecosystem needs to play ball together a little bit more, even so when that all opens up, to level that playing field, to keep that consumer comfort level of ease and simplicity high, but not get crazy with prices, even though I agree with you that they will need to go up a little. But have that more ubiquity across the board, I think, is where things will just continue to evolve and open up and share. Right?
It does feel, though, doesn't it? Though, I mean, data is obviously something that we've talked about for a long time, and it's still so challenging in so many different ways. There are just too many different types of data. It's not universal. So from an advertising perspective, actually, there's a bit of smoke and mirrors there a lot of the time at the moment. I mean, and it's just, how long is it going to take us to get to this world where we are speaking to one, Katie, I think you said, didn't you, earlier, about, personalization, and but yeah, it feels like we've still got a little bit of a way to go on that.
3 to 5 years is not that long in this space. Yeah.
You're promising me it's going to be sorted out by then.
Depends. Yeah.
Do we have any questions in the audience? Lydia.
Talis, you mentioned the visualization challenges. I suppose I had two parts to that question. I guess, where does that sit in terms of, is that at the manufacturer level or OS level in the US or anything? And also, do you see that as being a benefit to your business model, which is being able to more tightly target viewers, to be able to effectively create UI for certain other content tiles businesses that they're really serving one particular region, or is it actually just a magnet?
It's a bit of both. But go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yes. So first, okay. So on which side of the ball is, yes, and basically, we working hard together on that.
So I think one is sell through, right? If someone's, and the man Bjorn from Norwegian and NRK was on there. If someone is expecting that's my favorite channel or my favorite app or whatever it is, the local heroes as they call it in these countries, and that's not there, people will return to TV sometimes, and that's the last thing he wants, right? So there's a constant roadmap or pipeline of local hero editions per country globally. You know, TiVo traditionally around for 30 odd years is in almost 40 countries, or Charles will tell you it's probably even more. But having all of those contents from a pay TV world available in a smart TV world is slightly different. And in keeping up with them all the time, because they're constantly growing, right? Is as Vitala said, is a partnership thing that we're doing across the board. Certain local heroes and certain big boys want sizable volumes in different countries, and you get into all of that vicious circle almost, right? But we continue to make progress like other OSs. You're more closer to the other OSs. Everybody has a similar issue. So it's keeping up with that baseline and then adding as many as you can as you spread more globally, right?
So did I answer your question, Lydia? Okay, second part of it's a little bit both, basically. Of course, I mean, we have to think about our end users, and we think about them constantly. So going to the certain country, you need to provide them, like Gabriel said, yes, you need to have those local heroes there, because if it's not there, it's not interesting. It doesn't matter how popular that is, it just needs to be there. Also, if we don't have all these local apps, the retailers will have a very good excuse to not to take that TV. So we really need to think about this. And that's very important. That's very important for us. The second thing is, yes, it is a drag on. You know, you really need to think about making the apps for very limited number of viewers, and the amount of work that you put into that is probably as big as any other. It doesn't matter when, you know, if there is the country that has 3 million people or 50 million people, you still need to have them apps. So that, yes, a little bit of both, I would say. But I think that the most important thing is for the operating systems to cross that level when they actually start making money on those 5 monetizing countries. So basically the rest of the continent will become something, okay, like, oh, let's do it then. So yeah, we're waiting for that moment, but not only that, we have certain roadmaps with our partners. We know where we're getting. There is a kind of thought process behind it, what kind of decision we're going to make, where it makes sense to go first, because it's not only the apps, it's also certification processes. Yeah, continent is a pretty complicated map of how to get the TV out there to the market.
And Europe or EMEA is so different than the US in that respect, right? Every country is different, right? It's not a massive national market like over there. So getting all these little nuances across different countries is a challenge in different languages and stuff. But
it's reassuring though, isn't it? I mean, I think it's reassuring that we do recognise that local is still important. It's about giving people choice.
That's right.
That not everyone's going to have the same one size fits all. I mean,
Yep.
As a consumer, it's reassuring.
no, for sure.
Any other questions?
I saw a couple of other hands there. Yeah.
At the back? Do you need a thing?
Kaiser, if you got it, there you go.
Sure. I worked on advertising and streaming products more recently at Trade Desk. I was just curious about what kind of bottlenecks and challenges do you see in terms of ad inventory monetization, like more near term?
I missed the last bit on ad what?
ad inventory monetization. So monetizing the ad inventory from an advertising point of view, like what challenges and bottlenecks do you see right now?
Well, it's a highly competitive space for a start, right? As you know from the trade desk world, I guess. But people are all chasing the same campaigns in a lot of cases, and having the right footprint and the right inventory to be able to grab those campaigns that make sense to particularly larger players that are in that space to spend those budgets is very important. Which is why, as I said earlier, we have raised partnerships to be able to collaborate across inventory to make that more seamless, as well as standardized ad formats to make it easier for those to go, oh, you know what, I can put the same ad across multiple sets of OS platforms and brands, as well as into a car. Oh, great. That sounds great. So, it's about trying to flatten those barriers, to your question, is what we're seeing. And it's getting there, but it's going to take some more time. Because I think some of the bigger, let's call it the big tech giants, more have some walled gardens around that, and that make that a little bit more challenging.
I think when you think about what the bulk of that advertising is it's still video, right?
Yeah.
Which is fundamentally, as far as we're concerned, it's just TV advertising, right? But what we are still feels like we're still too far away from is being able to measure across all platforms and all, every single streaming app, so that advertisers know that they're reaching people efficiently and effectively with the right budget. I mean, that we've been talking about it for years, and we are going to be talking about it for years, because not everyone will get on board with, agreed ways of measuring. So I think that is fundamentally what is slowing down, the monetization of streaming inventory, is because lots of advertisers still haven't got good enough visibility of what they're getting and whether they're wasting their money, what's the frequency. It's all of that boring TV stuff. It's just fundamentals, right?
Target audiences and how you measure and prove back, exactly what you just said. So that's an ongoing challenge.
If I may just add one thing to that, there's a very interesting new concept of how to actually target the audiences, and that's the Edge AI. That's something maybe you already heard of it. There are companies who develop the technology to be able to target the ads directly on the TV. Not you don't have to target like 1 million audience. You can target the individual because it's embedded in the chipset. So that's something really interesting. I don't think this is gonna happen within the next 3 years, maybe it will. I don't know, but that's really interesting, and that's something that will change the landscape of advertising on the TV, I think, to a certain extent. So please watch it.
Yeah, if it means you can kind of track frequency and reach, I think yes, yeah, it will help. There was another hand, I think, wasn't there? Yeah.
2 here, 3 here.
You can shout.
Hello, I'm Annika from SVT. Thank you for a good panel. Smart TV is our biggest platform, so we're really invested in that. But we had a lot of technical issues with old models or TVs that are not updated. And for example, encryption doesn't work. A lot of new features that we build doesn't work. And the TVs doesn't seem to get any software updates. Would you say that all the new TVs now are gonna get software updates? Is there a trend towards that? I hope so.
Generally speaking, the modern TVs have plenty of resources for us to build, what we expect to be a great user experience. But like I said, however, unfortunately, there is that legacy of 8 years cycle of devices that we have to cover. Having said that, every now and again, I think a couple of years back, a new set-top box will come out, and they'll actually give it lesser resources than a previous set-top box because they're trying to manage the cost of it.
Exactly.
So you can get new devices that actually have less resource, which does make engineering challenging. But generally speaking, the modern devices are absolutely fine to work with. I would say anything from 2016 backwards starts to get challenging, more challenging till you know, you're tearing your hair out, and you're like, is the juice worth the squeeze building on this device at 4
Exactly.
Yeah.
We switched out the player for all the where we can. We switched to a more modern player than HBB. That helped for us. A tip for everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Nice.
And we own Viewed, so we can help you with that as well. So just to say, side gig. Are we out of time?
Any more?
Yeah, there was one more, wasn't there?
Justin.
Thank you. Justin from Google. I have too many operating systems in my life. At Christmas, our oven crashed during the cooking of Christmas dinner. This is a reasonably new oven, so we're getting a new oven. So the comments that you made, Annika and Tom, kind of resonate with me. So maybe a question for Tom, like in this world where screens are going to start proliferating beyond televisions are ultimately screens, but 5-10 years, it's going to be windows, tables, maybe even my cooker will have a screen on it, right? What does a good future operating system look like to you, Tom? What's the kind of the lowest common denominator that you expect so that we can scalably distribute content in a sensible way?
What does a good operating system look like?
Yeah, so you as an app developer, when
Yeah.
let's say I start up my own OEM, which is
Well, it's going to sound really
intelligence.
boring from my perspective, but a very well documented operating system is incredibly helpful for developers who are building for that platform. So I'd love a bit of documentation. That'd be great. I remember we did a build for a set-top box once, and there was no documentation, and it was just the lead engineer that we had to phone up over a call, and you know that was quite challenging. But that's a very, very niche device. Actually, it really comes down to the collaboration piece. So if you're submitting an app and you've built a relationship with your account manager who is certifying that application, they will work with you to make sure you're leveraging the features. They will give you a heads up of common issues known with the operating system. So I actually think it's more around the human element, around how the people at the OS level work with the app developers, helping you come to a solution. And it's everything from them giving you a heads up of what the schedule is of when they're releasing other apps, when they've got blackout windows or big launches, so you can plan accordingly. Other times you work with operating systems and it's just a form and you don't get any communication back, and it's really hard to know where you stand. So I would say that more human element and the documentation bit would dramatically help. But I think it's going to be completely fragmented for forever, because everyone's fighting to own the screen. I mean, I saw, I think it was last year, Samsung, Tizen, they're putting their operating system onto other TV sets as well. And like I said, Amazon's got a new one out. So I can't see the consolidation happening anytime soon. So I think it's going to be more and more fragmented.
Did see a couple of kitchen OSs recently. To your point. Interesting.
Done.
I think we are. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a coffee break.